afternoon and welcome to the International UFO Museum and Research Center. My name is Dennis Ballfacer, and over a period of 30 years, I primarily did Roswell. That was my main research. I also did underground bases, Area 51 up in Nevada, the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. I did tours here in town for 7 years, Roswell UFO tours. As far as Roswell, this whole thing started in July of 1947. There was a ranch foreman, Mac Brassel, on a ranch 65 miles northwest of here. At night, during a thunderstorm, he heard a sound louder than thunder, an explosion of some kind. He went out the next morning on horseback to check his sheep, look at his windmills for damage. He came upon a debris field, pieces of something scattered 3/4 of a mile long by several hundred yards wide.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to sell everything and travel the country at the tender age of 50? Well, with our last kid off to college and the ability to now work remotely, we've decided to do just that. So we're selling the house, loading up the dog, and hitting every city from California to Florida. We're scouring the country for a new place to call home and dragging you into every restaurant, Airbnb, and tourist trap we encounter along the way. This is the Skiptown All-Stars podcast.
What's up, listeners? Welcome back for another episode of Skiptown All-Stars. Hi there.
Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good.
My voice is still like messed up. I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah.
I think I talk too much. What do you think?
No comment.
That is a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
You better only answer that way. One
there's
way.
no correct answer to that.
There is a correct answer.
There's not. No, honey, you don't talk enough. I'd love to hear more.
Best answer.
Anyway, we are in Oklahoma City. We have a ton to tell you about our latest adventures. We have to start out, though, with Roswell, New Mexico. It has always been on my list. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I'm a huge alien conspiracist.
It is true.
It's actually filtered down to a couple of my kids. They like that genre. Mia, not so much.
She's smart.
She is smart. But
she knows it's nonsense.
So anyway, Roswell, New Mexico was a bullseye for me for a long time to hit. And we hit Roswell. I would say Roswell did not hit us. You can elaborate. You can begin to elaborate.
So first, before I start with how Roswell hit us, what did you expect as a sci-fi fan, an alien believer? What did you expect when you knew that we were going or found out that we were headed to Roswell? Because you did not know. I had it on my agenda, and I had wanted to surprise him. And it kind of like the cat got out of the bag in one of our podcasts when he mentioned it. I'm like, well, we're going. So I just want to ask you, all these years of thinking like Area 51 and Roswell, what were your thoughts before we got to Roswell?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what I didn't think. And that is, in Los Angeles, if you go to Hollywood and Highland, or I think it's in a few other cities, there may be one in Orlando. I'm not sure, but there's a
Church Street Station is in Orlando.
There's a Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. I thought you were
going
talking
nowhere with Church Street,
Okay,
but thank
sorry.
you. Anyway, I'll finish. And so there's a Ripley's Believe It or Not. It's dumb. It's corny. It's completely run down, right? At this point, I don't know if it's completely run down. I haven't been in it in years, but you walk by it on Hollywood Boulevard and you're like, meh, a hard pass, right? What I did not expect was that Roswell was going to look like the back alley of Ripley's Believe It or Not everywhere. And so,
okay. So what
it was not, I was expecting a little farm town with some quirky, quaint shops with a few streets of sort of, alien paraphernalia, which I guess we got. I did not expect it to be sort of the pit that it was. And I'm not even like sugarcoating it. Even the grocery store was junk. So I wasn't, I'm leading with the headline on this. I know, by telling you, like, I did not expect it to suck as bad as it did. There were a few highlights, but
so would you recommend it?
I wouldn't. I would say try and get into Area 51. You're going to have a better time getting shot by the military than you are going to Roswell. Like, seriously, you're going to have a way better story to tell your children than you went to Roswell. Like that market where you bought your T-shirt.
It was a antique mall.
Yeah.
So it had different vendors in it. And it was pretty rundown like any antique mall that you go into. Yeah, okay. So you were thoroughly disappointed.
That place sucked.
All right. So what I thought, since you want to know what I thought, I know you really do. So I'm going to tell you.
I'm still brewing over what I thought. Go ahead.
I actually thought, after hearing your idea of what you thought it was going to be, I guess mine is more along the lines of, I think what I had in my head was Death Valley meets an alien. I was expecting like pulling up to a gas station that only had a couple pumps and was like really old fashioned.
Yeah.
And like there'd be alien paraphernalia hanging outside at the gas station. Then I expected to like run down motels that like had all kinds of like alien signs outside of them. The honestly most disappointing part of this whole Roswell experience was that it didn't even land in Roswell.
Yeah, like, it was 80 miles away.
Did you know that ahead of time?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was outside of Roswell, but Roswell is a train town, I believe it's a big railroad town back in the day. And so it was the major hub where sort of when this event, whatever it is you believe occurred, it's sort of where everybody descended, and the press was staying in Roswell. There was a military presence. There was,
right. So it was a big city close to
it was the closest
the crash.
It wasn't even a big city, but it was the closest hub.
Okay, closest
to
hub.
where the crash occurred out on this guy's
that
ranch.
was news to me. I was looking everywhere for the crash site and was so disappointed that we had to travel 80 miles. And I was willing to do it, but then we found out that it's now private property.
Yeah.
And some conspiracy theorists, I learned, think that the government now owns the property, because I guess a few years ago, I think dating back, I have to look it up again because it's been a while since we've been there, a few weeks, but I believe that when I looked it up originally in 2017, it was privately owned, the ranch, up until 2017. And I think in the year of 2017, it was the only year the private person that owned that ranch allowed digging on the ranch and allowed tours.
Yeah, they opened it up to the public.
But it was only for 1 year. And then now it's owned by somebody else and they've closed it. They've taken the sign down. You can't even, I guess, find the address for it. I guess it's okay. Conspiracy theorists say it's completely wiped from the internet. When we went to the Welcome Center, I think they told me that we could probably ask someone at the museum and they might be able to give us the address. I think I did ask Dennis, who was very knowledgeable about the crash, for the address.
So for clarity, though,
I know I'm not even getting there yet. But in any case, the crash site isn't in Roswell. So for me, it was so disappointing. Was hoping to actually go and see where it happened. I was surprised at how Roswell looked like Van Nuys Boulevard. And if you are from Los Angeles, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is a very, very busy street with tons of stores just right next to each other, kind of just like a strip mall, but not a strip mall. Just
it's like thrift store heaven. So whatever that street is in your hometown, that's sort of what she's talking about by Van Nuys Boulevard. And that is actually spot on for the entire, I would say almost the entire strip of Roswell, other than the Welcome Center and the International Museum of UFOs.
Yeah. So let's be clear. When you drive into Roswell, you're not going to see any alien paraphernalia anywhere. You're going to see a Pennzoil oil change center. You're going to see a Dollar Tree. You're not going to be inundated with alien stuff when you land into Roswell, right out of the gate. You have to find this street, and it is just a street, and it's not even a cool street. There's a couple of shops sprinkled in that are just kind of silly and fun. And you go in and you see like cardboard cutouts of aliens and you pay $5 and then you'll go to the next one and see a baby alien cut out of cardboard. But that was so disappointing. For me, not even being a believer, I was like, so I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Bust. No, I mean, hey, sometimes it's bad to meet your heroes, Yeah. And I mean, there was a welcome to Roswell sign, and you could see sort of cheeky hat tips to aliens at certain hotels, at the McDonald's, I think, and all that other stuff. We were going to an Airbnb that night, so we got off the main drag kind of right away, getting to our place where we were staying because we got in late, right? Did we get in late? We got in like at dusk. Yeah. And so it wasn't until the next morning where we were like, okay, let's go tackle Roswell.
We were excited to see some aliens.
And it was like, I don't know. It was like 15 Napa auto parts stores and,
it's so true.
It's like a 7-Eleven that was junky and,
look, it's like I disagree with him. I would tell someone to go because you probably should go, just to say you have been there. Is it worth like flying in and driving and all that? I'm not sure. I guess it would probably be worth it if you're going to go during the UFO convention, because Roswell holds a UFO convention. Yeah. We found out every year. That would be fun because then everybody's dressed up. There is one site that we both really, really enjoyed. It was the UFO Museum. Yeah. And that seemed to have a lot of facts.
She's doing air quotes for those of you listening right now. No, that was cool. They had a whole room with like all kinds of documentation, books, government files,
yes,
bins and bins of those things. They had cassette tapes, interviews with, and when we're talking International UFO Museum, we're not talking just the Roswell incident. We're talking stuff from all over, the world and sort of, just files and files of government interviews with Navy pilots and the Air Force and, all sorts of generals and
that museum is really cool. So if you're going to do anything and, you are going to go to Roswell, that's
the spot.
100%.
But definitely pack a lunch because there's a lot of reading there. Like seriously, they have tables where you can sit down and peruse the materials. I think you can listen to the audio cassette tapes. I think they have a mode to do that. You can't obviously check anything out of the museum, but you could sit there and while away your whole day going on a deep dive of,
it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. Close encounters of whatever kind you choose. Yeah. So that part's great. And they also have when you get into sort of the main hall, they have, all of the sort of displays of television shows, movies, War of the Worlds, any sort of
alien encounter.
Yeah, in pop culture, TV show. The TV show Roswell is prominently displayed. Obviously, it's a big hit in that area. And I guess Roswell had a reboot that I didn't know about, but
it did?
So. Yeah, the show itself had a reboot. Yeah, I think, I don't know, however 5-6 years ago, something like that. So it didn't last again, unfortunately. But I'm sure, however Roswell is portrayed in that show does not reflect how Roswell is portrayed in real life. I mean, it was a bummer. It was like, seriously, clean your streets. There's litter everywhere. There's litter like it's nuts.
Okay, but to be fair, I think Roswell really showed who she was the first night we landed there, because that Airbnb was really quite telling as to how the rest of the town was going to be. Okay, let's be honest. I think that we both hope Roswell would be as creepy as the Airbnb.
Right.
But to be fair, the Airbnb was run down and it was across from a park that was run down, and everything around it was kind of dirt. So,
well, I mean, there were train tracks running at the back of the property.
Right. So the point is that it really gave us a clear indication of like welcome to Roswell, bitches.
Well, yeah. And what she's trying to say is I really struck out on the Airbnb. But in fairness to me, I knew it was going to be an old farmhouse because it said it was an old farm. It said Grandma and
First of all,
it said Grammy and Grampy's old farmhouse, whatever. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like,
they could call it a farmhouse, but you have got to be clear.
But let me spell it out.
Nobody is here. Okay, wait, before you start spelling, just don't picture a farmhouse because it's not a freaking farmhouse. It's like a track home. Go ahead.
Okay. I was raised in farm country. We've talked about this before. I know what a farmhouse on farmland looks like.
It was a track home.
That was not this. It was on a sort of 2-lane strip,
Pet
like
cemetery
highway that, it was like Pet Cemetery. There were a lot of trucks. Like we heard the semi trucks all night long when the train wasn't popping off.
Yep.
I thought the park across the street was fine. Like there were kids playing baseball there and stuff. Like there were teams holding practices.
Yeah, but it just looked like a dirt.
Obviously those people felt fine and comfortable. Like the park was nice enough. Yeah. But anyway, we were on our way. So we left Denise's favorite spot in Santa Fe and I just booked this thing on the fly. And I was like, you know what? This is $80. The cleaning fee is this. The cleaning fee. Oh my God. People, you definitely get what you pay for when you're booking an Airbnb.
They're hearing $80.
This thing was like all in with cleaning fees. And they took the dog because we weren't going to ruin anything in this house. It wasn't a manufactured house. I mean, somebody did build this thing by hand at some point, but but we got there and we're like, this thing is like
a rundown.
It's like on a dirt patch. Like there's no
grass.
There were no sunflowers. There was no corn. Nothing growing there. So I was like, it's not really a farmhouse because this doesn't look like a farm. But anyway, the lady who was responding to me on Airbnb, she was super nice, super friendly. Anything you need, you just let us know, all this other stuff. And there were like once or twice, it was like a God bless you, and I was like, okay, like, she's a sweet old lady. And I know old ladies always say, God bless you. I grew up in a little town and, they're just very liberal with that. Jesus loves you. And, and he does. The rest of us may think you're an asshole, but Jesus loves you. And so, anyway, we arrive at this place. It's a dirt patch, and Denise immediately gets out her phone. And you
say dirt patch. The entire yard was dirt. Let's be clear.
I mean,
front and back.
Yeah.
Okay.
The entire property was dirt.
Okay.
I believe.
Go ahead.
So Denise goes in with her phone, and she comes out white as a sheet. I mean, there's no joking around at all. She was like, "How much was this place?" And I'm like, $80. And she was like, yeah, like we should have got a better place. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, go inside. And it's a little difficult to explain because the decorations themselves were religious in nature for the most part, or they were very old. And it did look like, okay, some old grandpa used to live here or something. There was actually a picture of old grandpa on the wall, which was a little scary. But anyway, I saw him looking at you in the middle of the night, by the way.
I'm sure you did. I saw him in my brain. Like it burned in my brain. Grandpa,
God rest his soul, was shining down all over the place. But the first thing you noticed walking into this house were there were little strips of paper like taped to everything with like multiple exclamation points and like long descriptions of a flashlight or just random things. And then, of course, you get to the main table in the front window.
It was the most, come on.
Well, no, we got to talk about it.
It was the most frightening home I have ever walked into.
It took a minute to digest what was going on. I'm not going to lie. And so we walked to the front table. And of course, there's a Bible laid out, which is fine. And there was a passage in there that was highlighted and it said something about leaving. It's funny. So I grew up Methodist. I've been through the Bible a few times. I get around. I've read a little, but I had never recognized.
I'm Catholic. We don't read the Bible.
Yeah, you guys just gamble and smoke and fight.
Completely.
So, and conquer nations. Uh-huh. And so anyway, so I read it, and if it were just the Bible without all the other Bible verses all over, like pasted to the walls, it was like computer printed paper.
It was so frightening. If anyone's ever seen the film Midsummer, then you know where I am coming from right now. I felt like I was in Midsummer because when you walk into any place, whether it's a home or a business or a garage, like I don't care where you walk into, when it's overloaded with Jesus, that immediately says to me, the devil is present.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not kidding.
I know. It has
a cover up.
It does
for
have.
The devil
it
is
has
present.
the adverse effect. It's like the Shakespeare quote. I think it's a Shakespeare quote where it's like, "Methinks thou protest too much." You know, it's
Yes.
it's like, okay, you're trying way too hard. So back to my point. If I had just walked in there and it was a few crosses and Grandpa's photo and the Bible open, it'd be like, no big deal. But
I was so scared. I normally am very sassy and I wanted to close the Bible. I didn't close the Bible.
No,
I was so scared.
I absolutely forbid Denise to close that Bible. I was scared myself.
Because she would have known. Because the minute that we had left, she would have went to the seat. Like she was total. I think there were cameras in the house, if you want to know. Like when I was getting ready in the bathroom, I literally said to myself as I was undressing, somebody's watching me. And what can I do about it? Like I honestly thought that. I'm like, there's a camera in here and somebody is watching me.
I mean, it wouldn't have been far-fetched. I'm not going to lie. Like I felt bad the minute we got inside. I was like, ooh, like, okay. So I think what the intent was, there were three things going on. Okay. The first was she was ultra religious, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. Like whatever, you can be ultra religious. It's a little overwhelming when I'm just like renting a house from you for the night. Like, you know, hey, I'm just passing through. Like, number two, she really wanted to pay homage to her grandfather and grandmother because I guess this was their house at some point. And number three, they'd obviously had some dirtbags staying there because there were instructions literally on every freaking light switch. Like every light switch, don't touch this mirror. This flashlight is an antique flashlight. Please don't use it. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't want me to use stuff in your Airbnb, take it out. Just take it out. I don't need the flashlight unless you and your cult of white sheeted people come and try and steal me in the middle of the night. Then I need a flashlight because I'm going to run. But, and I guarantee even for a big boy, I will outrun those people. But aside from all that, I'm just like, so there were like three things going on. And I guess she thought her approach to all three of those things were to print out a paragraph for every single thing and literally tape it to everything around the house. Like,
if you are, listening to this, you're going to go to my Instagram because I'm going to show everyone the video of the house plus every single printed piece of paper that she had in one of those plastic folders that was pasted to the walls, to the doors, to the door handles. It was like she said, this knitted quilt, and she would go into the history, was knitted in 1824 by my great, the whole thing. It's used this yarn. At the very bottom was in bold, do not touch. And it was like, it
was odd. It was odd. And their rating was through the roof. Like, I'm not lying. Like,
I have my theory on those reviews. Those were all church people. Those were not real. No, they were not real.
You don't think
Airbnb
they really stayed? I know, but
people,
the thing with Airbnb is you can't really review somebody unless you've actually paid the fee to stay at a particular place, So maybe they're church people from
God, that's so scary.
I don't know. It's like, I don't want to bang on church people. Like, that's not my thing, even though I think their politics and their religion couldn't be a further divide than what I learned as a kid growing up. But
really quick. I've been raised my whole life. I'm Catholic. My brother and sister-in-law are Christians who live the word, walk the word, talk the word. They're not crazy. These people were crazy.
We would never walk into our brother and sister-in-law's house.
Never.
And see notes everywhere
about Jesus. I mean, like, look, okay, I can walk into any house. I know plenty of Italians who have a beautiful Bible quote on their wall. Are you kidding me?
Put the Sacred Heart up on the wall. Like,
my sister-in-law and brother have a Jesus quote, I believe, on their wall somewhere. I'm sure they do in their bedroom. They're not this. Okay, this is different.
When there's so much printed stuff all over the house. It's like I went to bed exhausted because my eyes were so beat up because I couldn't look anywhere without having to read something. Like you can't when it was like being in a room of newspapers. It was like if you were in a padded cell in a straitjacket and there were just newspaper clippings all over the wall.
I just wanted to get out of that house. We slept and I was like, they're going to come in the middle of the night. I was confident and there was no way he was going to be able to protect me.
She's right about that.
There's no way.
I mean, it reminded me of that. What was that movie, The Visitors, where they just come? What was the movie where like the four randos in the masks just show up?
The Visitors.
And it was like a random, murder spree, whatever. And
it wasn't going to be in my head how I was playing it out. It wasn't going to be.
Oh
random.
No, you were going to be a handmaid.
Oh, for sure. And they had this plan, and I had this whole thing going on in my head. It's like, this is their cover. They rent these Airbnbs, and then people disappear. No, I had it all. You didn't see Midsummer, so I can't even.
But I do know, like, I went to one church when I was a kid, and it was, to me, it wasn't the type of religion I was raised with, but it was a very, sort of Pentecostal, I guess, for lack of a better word, experience where like the organ player was like, had her eyes rolled back in her head, and everybody was rolling around on the floor speaking in tongues. And I didn't feel in that moment that Jesus was around,
there was not a warm, fuzzy feeling. Like when I walk into church, when I walk into Our Lady Grace, there's always a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, it's like everybody hugs you.
There was no warm, fuzzy feeling in this house. And so I couldn't figure it out. And because I couldn't figure it out, I just wanted to leave. There were stacks and stacks of spiral notebooks of people saying how much they love staying there. And to me, those are all people that are dead and missing right now. And look, if there are people missing in New Mexico, they should go check out these spiral notebooks.
I know.
And see
it
the
has
names.
Nothing to do with alien abductions. It's literally like they are,
they're gone.
They're in a cabin somewhere up in the woods.
Oh no. It's worse than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was our first night into Roswell. And to me, I thought, oh, if this is like how Roswell is going to be, he's going to poop his pants.
Yeah. But it turns out that was the
scariest part of Roswell.
That was the scariest part of Roswell. So we went to bed that night, and Denise woke up with dry eye because one of them was open the entire evening.
The
entire night. I heard about 3 trains.
Yep.
And I heard just tons and tons of trucks. Fortunately, we did not hear footsteps. That would have been bad.
And we knew, and you had mentioned this earlier, that he said to me, and without him even saying it, I swear to God, he never uttered a word to me. The next morning in my head, I just kept thinking, we have to get out of here as soon as possible because they're going to come up on us. They're going to, and I just had a feeling. We can't leave
here 18 minutes late.
No, they're going to.
They're coming to clean the place.
Oh no, I did not think they were coming to clean. They wanted to meet us. And so I'm getting all of my stuff, and he yells out to me, hurry, they're going to want to meet us. When he said that,
okay, so
I was like, literally, I was in the bedroom and my eyes went.
Oh my God, this place.
It was like, my eyes just shot open, and I was like, he's thinking what I'm thinking. They're going to come and meet us.
Yep. So, but before that, of course, the dog has been our little problem child for the better part. We've had some really good cities and good places where she's just been super mellow. But this particular night, no.
She felt it too.
Well, she did. But I let her out. And because it was dirt everywhere, at that point, it was evening and dew had fallen on the ground. So now it was just mud. And I didn't want to walk out there in, my Ugg slippers. So...
You are so
I know
bougie.
I am so bougie. You know what? God. If you guys are going to, I really appreciate those slippers to my daughters and my wife. Like, if you're going to buy them for me, I'm going to treat them nice. That's all. I didn't ask for them, but I do like them. So anyway,
that is really funny.
I know. So there's no way I was getting my Ugg slippers all dirty. There's no way. So I'm standing there on the thing, on a couple of bricks. And of course the dog just like wanders behind the building at 4 a.m. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I walk around the building, and then she just decides, like, she can't we've decided Roxy can't really hear that well anymore. So what happens is she sneaks off and then you start marching after her. And then she eventually sees you and thinks, oh, it's playtime. And then she starts running from you.
It's dangerous.
It's so dangerous. And there were like, again, there were like trucks going by and everything. So she avoided the street, but she kept going deeper and deeper back on the property. It's 4 a.m. I'm like, holy cow. Like, I'm seriously like, I'm either going to get shot or kidnapped, or they're just going to come and take Denise while I'm chasing the dog. One of the two. And then I think the house, well, I'm pretty sure it's the house where they live, was also on the property. And of course she runs around this old junky shed and bam, she's right on that side. It's like 4 a.m. and now I'm in my bare feet because I took my Ugg slippers off and I'm like, Roxy, trying to scream at her without screaming and waking them up. Get in the house. And she's like, just like wagging her tail, looking at me. And she's like, she does a frolic thing. And it's like mud is flying up under her paw pads or whatever. I'm like, God. I'm going to kill this dog. So I didn't go to bed after that. I was a cranky ass like the whole for the better part of the morning after that. But we had it was like an early checkout. Like they wanted you out by 9 or 10. I was like, we were out of here at 8:55. Like
it's true.
There's no way.
I think it was 10 o'clock.
And I did look as I was checking out, like I was reading the checkout instructions, and it did say in there, hey, and if you want, we'd love to meet you or whatever. And I was like, oh my God. And it's just like, I had this vein like popping in my forehead. And I was like, I have to get her out of here. Like she's so slow moving in the morning.
I am.
And she's going to be dragging ass. And then this lady's going to come over and want to chat me up. And I'm going to have to fake tell her how great a night we had.
Yep.
Just so I could be sure that we got out of there.
In one piece.
The thing is, ultimately it's like, look, she believes what she believes and, all power to her for that. She was a nice lady until I left my review. But before that, she was super nice.
She was never Christian.
She was never.
That response to your review proved it.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. But she got really mad. I said pros, really affordable. I felt like we got, like, again, you get what you pay for. Like, it's not her fault that I decided, you know what, we're only going to spend $80 and crash in this place tonight. I grew up in Ohio. It's like, whatever. I can deal with modest. This was not modest. This was oppressive print work everywhere. and
you said oppressive print work.
Yes.
Oh my God. That is literally
what the hell is going on in this place? Like we've been together for a long time. It's like, I know your micro facial expressions at this point. Like we know each other so well. And I'm like
he
something's
knows
wrong. Like my spidey senses were tingling the minute you came running out.
He knows the difference between there are roaches here and then the devil is here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it came down to. So, cut to me basically pushing Denise all her bags into the van, and it's like
at 8:55,
and mud flew as we pulled out of this place. Like we are out.
He was like, "Hurry!"
I know.
He literally yelled, "Hurry! I don't want to meet them."
Oh my God, the devil will make me run like a little kid. Okay, but I'm out.
Here's the best. I figured out the next morning that the track home next to ours, directly next to it, like within feet, was also their rental property.
Yeah.
And here's the funniest.
There was a light on in that house all night.
Oh, and you know what?
A side room light.
Yeah.
I was like, they're either watching us or
no, I actually think that they were frightened also because they pulled up in a Prius.
Oh.
So the generalization of a Prius.
Oh, so they were an Airbnb or two, you think?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was just like a regular renter.
They had a Prius, and that light in their bathroom, I think, was on all night, and they were out before we were.
Because they were sleeping with a shotgun.
Well, Prius people generally, I mean,
right.
They're like hugging trees and stuff like that. They're all about look, I'm generalizing, but Prius people,
totally
we know Prius people. They're all really like happy-go-lucky, like hippies. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Am I wrong? Do you know a person who owns a Prius that carries a shotgun?
Mean, they're not carrying an AR-15. Yeah, no. Prius owners and AR-15s don't go together. I completely agree with you.
Okay, so those Prius people.
Your point is made.
Okay, so those Prius people had that light on all night, and they were out before us. So I said to you.
So they were sleeping all night with nunchucks.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Okay, so I said to you, which you probably don't even remember because you were in your own head. I said to you, the Prius people left before we
Oh
did.
my God. I didn't know there was no buffer. There was no buffer. It was like, oh, she'll get to the Prius people first and we'll use them as human shields to get out of here.
No, they were probably out at 6 a.m.
Oh my God. It's a shame. It's such a shame because it's like, I'm sure she's such a nice lady in person.
No, she's not. That review showed she wasn't.
Yeah, well, in the end, she revealed her true colors.
Plus, she doesn't know how to spell. So she had a sign up that said, no excessive drinking. ACCESS. And I was like, you're going to give me rules? We
access drinking all the time. It's no problem. No problem, lady. We can access that drinking.
We got this.
That's right. I forgot about excessive drinking.
I think I said to you, she's going to tell me what to do. She should spell it right.
Yeah.
So that was our Roswell experience. Best part, Airbnb.
Yeah. So anyway, so then we went into town.
Oh.
We got a great cup of coffee at Stellar Coffee and a terrible breakfast. It was really bad food.
The food was awful.
Yeah, it was terrible. But the Americano was really good. I must say, it was good. I was happy.
I'm glad you left happy.
Yeah. You not so much.
Nope,
no,
not at all.
Yeah, it was just.
I was actually angry.
It was just more for you. It was just more of the same of what you were already experiencing.
Pretty much.
You had a crappy breakfast, a crappy night's sleep, and now we're going to go to some crappy tourist attractions. So.
I was happy to be alive though.
So, we actually, so that we could go to the museums, we actually left Roxy at a place. I got to put that in our Google map. I forget the place where we left them, but there were like 1 trillion dogs in like a 3-room place. I walked in, they were all happy. I mean, all the dogs were like falling all over each other. And I walked in and then that stirred them all up again, So I left Roxy there. And they were like, does she need her nails trimmed? Does she need whatever? And I look and there were like 2 young people just like back there, like shearing dogs. Like it was like a factory in this small little place.
Yeah, they're clippers.
They were super nice people. I would totally leave the dog there 100 times. But, it was a little cramped with all the dogs they were taking care of that day. But
her tail was wagging. We picked her up. But we left
she was waiting for us at the window and her tail was wagging. She had a good visit.
We left her there because we really wanted to go into some of the museums and shops and knew that we couldn't do that with her. So we left her there, but I'm glad we did because we ended up, obviously we talked a little bit about at the top about, going into the International UFO Museum. But the one thing I do want to mention really quick is that there was a gentleman there by the name of Dennis, who's a firm believer. He actually dug on the site where the alien ship supposedly crashed, and he was just chock full of information. I actually did an interview with him, and I'll be posting some of that on my Instagram, which is Skiptown Denise and also Skiptown All Stars. Dennis was really quite the character. He does a 1-hour talk at the UFO Museum, and do not ask Dennis any questions that question what happened. He gets very upset.
He's very protective of the people, the witnesses, everybody who saw, this crash landing. Dennis is very, very protective of them. He was actually the one that told us that you can no longer get to the crash site because an individual bought. So the crash site itself is actually on government land, but the entire yes, but
how
the
do you
entire
know that?
Because he told us that.
No, that's not true.
The entire surrounding area, as I understand it, was purchased by a private landowner who they can't identify.
No. Here's what he said. He said that property was always privately held and that a new person just bought it and took down all the signs and wiped the internet clean.
Yeah, so now you don't even know. Like now there's not even a no trespassing sign.
But what he said was that new private owner is really the U.S. government.
Yeah. The conspiracy theory is that the U.S. government basically pays somebody to be the owner on record of this property.
Yes, that's what he said. Yeah. So anyway, he was very interesting, and I would say that was the best part of our trip.
Yeah, and do not tell him it was a weather balloon.
Oh.
It was not a weather balloon.
Absolutely not. And Dennis, to be fair, is about 80.
Yeah.
And he used to do tours around the Roswell area, meaning he actually took tours over there.
To the site.
To the site.
He was one of the few people allowed to do it.
Yeah. And then he said COVID hit and it, it was very difficult. He said he had to get certain permits and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
and he's 80 now. Yeah. So he's like, I'm 80. So I'm out. I'm not doing
So now
it
he just does 1 hour talks, at the museum, and he does it like twice a day or something like that. So we were really lucky that when we were there, we got to sit in on a talk and he asked us if we had any questions, and people asked him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That was a good time. Before that though, we went to a place called I want to hang on.
There was 2 other places there that were not even worth mentioning, but you can mention them if you want. I'm
going to totally mention them.
They're not worth mentioning, but go ahead.
I'm going to totally mention them.
Okay.
So the first place we went was Alien Zone. And the reason I mention it is it was only, what was it? $5 a person?
$5.
Yeah. Do not spend the $5. You think to yourself, oh, this is $5. I'm only going to spend $5. It's $10 for 2 of us. This will be fun and quirky. No, you get into the maze area where they show you the alien displays, mannequins with alien masks and costumes and stuff like that. Like that's all fine. But the real issue with Alien Zone is it smells like burnt cat piss throughout the entire place. The minute you get in there.
There's a cat living in there or 2.
Or 2.
Yeah, it's really bad. And you don't even smell well. Like meaning like you don't have a good sense of smell.
Pervasive. Like, do not take your children into this place. Not because they're going to get scared of the aliens.
There's nothing scary.
But because they're going to have allergy dander in their eyeballs the minute they get out of this place. Just do not go. There was a better one. Okay, so there is a better one called Roswell UFO Spacewalk. That had like sort of the circular where you walk through the tunnel and it's disorienting and it's spinning around and all that stuff. The displays were good. There was a lot of audio that they had mixed together, and it was a much better presentation. So skip Alien Zone. Either way, it was kind of a waste of $20 all around. And so I guess we really were just happy to be alive at that point.
I'm really happy we met Dennis. So I don't feel like the trip was wasted. I feel like we went to Roswell. And by the way, I was thinking about doing Roswell on the way to Texas, but I have to be honest with you, a listener when I was in Utah was the one who said, oh, you have to hit Roswell at some point. And when she said that, I was like, okay, I'm definitely going. Yeah. So all that to say, like, we really do listen to our listeners. If it's on the way and we can visit, we definitely will. And Roswell was one of those that I had in my head about visiting, but it really honestly wasn't until my listener said, you have to do Roswell, that I was like, we're going. And in the end, I'm glad I went. Again, if I were to recommend it, me personally, I would recommend it possibly during like the UFO convention. Although Dennis did tell us, was it 11,000 people descended?
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
So it'd be, okay, that Airbnb is more than $88 at.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She's charging at least $97 that night. But I will say that if there was a UFO convention going on, I probably would have thought it was a fantastic thing because everybody would get up for that. They would have costumes on.
Yes.
The streets would be dirty and you wouldn't even realize like, oh no, this is how it normally is in Roswell. Like, because
you'd be looking at all the people.
Yeah, because you'd be looking at all the people and you'd be like, well, of course it's dirty. There are 11,000 people here. Not realizing for sure, like, no, it's just an ordinary day and it always looks this way. But, anyway.
So I'm a thumbs up sort of. So I'm like, you know what? If you're a big alien person, the museum is worth it and Dennis is still there. So go. You're like, hell no, don't even bother, right?
That's tough. I mean, I think the 3-minute video we did, like Dennis allowed us to interview him even before his talk right there in the museum. Yeah. And that 3-minute interview alone probably made it worth our time to go there, just because, I mean, here's a guy that, knew the people who lived there, who professed that they saw this thing, and he's done the tours. He's been to the land. He's actually like taken a shovel to the ground there. Like, that's cool. That's worth my $80 at the church lady's house.
Okay. So I guess Roswell's a go for you as well.
Well, my advice would be just show up in the morning, don't sleep there and keep driving. But I don't know where you're going to land because it takes a while to get to anywhere else,
All right. So that was our Roswell experience. Are you still a believer?
Oh yeah, I'm totally a believer still. I looked at some of those files and, I mean,
no, we're not starting.
What makes me believe is this. There was such a rush by the government to shut people up. It tells me there was something there,
Okay.
You're not buying that? Because you seemed like you were.
No, I mean,
you seemed like you were leaning into that part of it a little bit while we were there.
So it sounds so small-minded to think that there aren't other
life forms.
Beings, life forms inhabiting our universe.
Yeah.
So I don't want to seem small-minded, but I am so the person that like, I can't believe it until I see it. So I have a hard time with that. But then like when I think about Roswell or Area 51, like what is the big cover up? Like to me, that's so insane. Like whenever there's such a big cover up about it, there's something. I mean, there's obviously rumors that they were testing like something, the government was testing something. Well, if that were the case, wouldn't people have come out already at this point and said, look, we were testing like, a new kill missile. Like, I mean, like you would have heard something. So
what the hell is a kill missile?
I don't know. You know what the government makes.
Go on.
Anyway, so, but nothing's ever come out. Like, I don't know. It's weird. And then, sometimes on people's deathbeds, you hear, generals will say, it was true. There were aliens.
Oh,
so
yeah.
then when you hear that, you're like, I don't know. I kind of am leaning toward it. I really am. Like going there, I was like, this is crazy, stupid stuff, but let's go. But I don't want to seem stupid. Like, how could there not be other life forms? So to me, I'm like, okay, I got to be logical about it.
Well, it's tough because, you watch all these like shows where they're like hunting, say, Sasquatch, and it's just 13 seasons of people screaming in the woods,
Right.
And there's nothing, like they never find anything.
I know, but then there's people from all over the world who have had odd sightings. I don't know. It's so easy to say that those odd sightings are something else other than a UFO. You can almost explain them away, but sometimes maybe they just are UFOs.
Maybe.
So I'm somewhere in the middle. Before I was like really a non-believer.
Yeah, you were.
Now I'm somewhere in the middle. I do have a friend. I'll just share this really quickly.
Dennis converted you.
A little bit. I really liked him.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, and this is a friend, I mean, somebody I've known for many, many years. And if I heard the story from you and you said my friend, or I heard it from someone else, they said my friend, I'm like, okay, whatever. I would have just stopped listening. But because it's my friend,
your friend.
Yeah. I know it's true. He was telling me that he was driving, he lives in Florida, and he was driving down some road.
That explains a few things. Go on.
Any case, there were people pulled off on the side of the road, and there was a bright light in the sky, and he pulled off on the side of the road, and he asked a girl, he's like, what's going on here? And she goes, I don't know. She said, all of us are looking at the same thing. It's like some crazy bright light in the sky. And he said they looked, it disappeared, it went away, and they all got in their car. And when he got in his car, it was 3 hours later.
Ooh.
So he thinks he was abducted. Like he said, where did 3 hours go? He's like, that's impossible. And he's not a liar. I've known him for years. He truly thinks he was abducted. Where did the 3 hours go? If it was an alien, maybe something happened in that moment and time was forwarded so quickly for those people that were looking at that bright light. Was he abducted? Could that have been? I don't know. All I know is that something happened, and that's not very explainable.
That's not very explainable. But, there are plenty of guys that leave Chili's and they're driving home. And
I know, you hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
And they see a bright light, and then their friends don't believe them and all that.
No, yeah. They see a bright light, and then the next thing you know, they're waking up on the side of the road, their butt hurts. And then
oh my God,
they have to drive home and tell their wife where they've been, and
what alien abducted them.
I mean, it could have been Mary Lou's house, but at the same time, it could have been an alien abduction. You never know.
Okay,
it doesn't explain the butt hurting.
It
but
always takes a terrible turn with you.
We've really kicked this dead horse. called Roswell. I think it's probably time to wrap it up. There's no point in doing a top 5 for me because we already talked about our top 1. My top 2, the Americano at Stellar Coffee, and then Dennis at the International UFO Museum.
Well, I don't have a top 5 because I didn't eat there. So I would say, well, I did. I had a horrible breakfast, but so I left there hungry.
Yeah.
But Dennis as well is my number 1 for Roswell.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, there you have it. There's our top 1.
Oh my God, if we didn't have Dennis, we'd have nothing.
Oh, I'd be so angry right now. I'd be so livid.
We have nothing.
We had Dennis. Yeah.
All right, there's our Roswell experience.
A couple of housekeeping items, and that is, I know a lot of you are really starting to watch the YouTube version of the pod. We really appreciate that.
Yes.
It just depends on what city we're in, though. Sometimes I need my editor friend, Arturo Batalla, to cut this thing back in Los Angeles for me. So if you don't see it on Tuesday mornings, I'm really, really trying to get it to you guys in time. But sometimes with travel schedules or what have you, it doesn't appear until Thursday morning. Thursday morning is my drop deadline. So if you're following us on YouTube, I just want to sort of spell that out. Maybe if once we're done with our wild road trip and we're actually really remote working from somewhere, I'll have the time to get all those episodes up on Tuesday. The other item I wanted to mention was please check out the Linktree link that is in every single episode now. You can go there, not only follow us on all your platforms, which we're really happy you're doing, but you can also see the Google Maps of everywhere we went. We don't always talk about them in every single episode. We just don't have that kind of time or memory. We're 50 somethings for crying out loud. And Denise, in fairness, has been very diligent about merging our debit card swipes into those maps. Like she will literally go through our bank account and say, oh yeah, that's right, we went here. Or, oh yeah, James bought coffee there. So if you're really interested in seeing where we've been and maybe a quick take on
physically seeing where we've been.
Yeah, what
Google
restaurants we've hit, what hotels we've stayed at. Denise has been very instrumental. Thank you, honey, in putting that stuff together. And I think that's about it for Roswell. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done with you, Roswell. Tell him, babe.
Give me a second.
It's our slogan, honey.
I know.
It's our slogan.
Empty nest, full tank.
Now we're done.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.